Ritual slop forever. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we are taking a look at the new MEGAlith support that is coming to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And here's the thing, I had to come up with this idea or this concept on my own. So it may not be fully fleshed out. I kind of came up with it fairly quickly. But overall, I want to showcase what this deck does and some of the ideas presented with it. I think MEGAlith is a really fun deck and a really interesting concept because what it does is it utilizes the ritual monsters as the ritual spells themselves. So you both use the monsters as the monsters and as the spells, which is pretty cool. However, that does mean that you need a lot of cards in order to generate the advantage necessary to actually make these work. However, with full being basically a one card end board, it's very powerful overall, especially with the new cards. So let's actually take a look at the new cards. We have three new cards. First and foremost, we have Anastasis, which is it's just an insane card. You discard a card to add 2 megaliths, a level 4 or lower and a level 8 or higher, which is the necessary cards, I guess, to start your combo basically. So you add those to your hand, and then on top of that, if you ritual summon, you get to do one of these effects, which is the either draw 2 and then discard a card, or attribute a monster your opponent controls, both of which are pretty solid effects, right? Being able to attribute a monster, also non-targeted, which is pretty nice, and then also, of course, the drawing cards is pretty solid as well. All of which is, it's just pretty good. On top of that, we are also given 2 additional cards to kind of put onto our end board. We have the Plura, which is a wild card, Notra Plura, which has the effect where you can ritual summon it with a Megalith card. However, must be ritual summoned using only ritual monsters, so do keep that in mind. That being said, it's not that big of a deal, it's just something to keep in mind. However, you reveal it from your hand, and then this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your activation, to the activation of your Megalith ritual monster effects, meaning you basically get to play without having to interact with a bunch of hand traps, so drawing it's not terrible. The only problem with that is you have a million ways to search it, and by the time, like, if you were to draw this, it doesn't actually do anything for you in terms of like starting a combo, right? So there's that. However, it does have a very strong on-field effect, which says when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can negate it, destroy it. Then if you negated a card or effect that targeted a card, you also get a tribute a monster your opponent controls. The second line of that, the tributing, barely comes up, and likely it might come up occasionally, right? But people will probably not be activating a card that targets one of yours, and also have a thing to tribute. It's likely to be like Imperm or something like that. But at the very least, you know, hey, Omni Negate, very strong. Now, with that being said, we also have a new level 4 monster, which is Full Lock. Full Lock on summon adds a Megalith card from grave to your hand, and during the main phase, can tribute itself and other such cards to ritual summon from your grave, which is also very nice. So what this allows you to do is, hey, say for example, you get your Bethor into your grave, or say Full goes into your grave or something along those lines, you can then reborn it off of the Full Lock, which is pretty solid as well. As for the rest of this, it's pretty simple. You use Full to get to Bethor, and Bethor pops the entire field. So alongside the Plura, you're basically just reliant on nuking the opponent's field. That being said, it's a ritual deck, and at this point, ritual decks are actually pretty solid for 2 important reasons. 1, Mitsurugi. And 2, just the sheer quantity of additional engines that you can play that facilitate ritual strategies. Notably, the new cards that we may not get within the new set, but Miracle Raven is currently insane within the TCG and OCG. If you don't know what this card does, it basically makes it so that all of the ritual decks have ease of access to their ritual monsters and the tribute fodder for the ritual monsters. Because this card says, once per turn during the main phase, you can ritual summon this card by tributing a monster from hand or field whose levels equal or exceed 1. Very easy. And then on top of that, if you were to ritual summon it utilizing this card, you can utilize this as the full cost. And when tributed for a ritual summon, you get to add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand. Notably, this is any ritual monster, so you can add the Mitsu card, you could add Ben 10, or you could start your combo off with the Megalith cards as well. So it's all very useful if we do end up getting the Miracle Raven. I'm going to showcase a combo without it, because I doubt that we're actually getting this, but at the very least, it is a cool addition that would be very nice with this new set of cards. That being said, you also have access to rocks, meaning that you have one of the best searchers in the game in Gallant Granite. You also have access to things like Block Dragon, because they're all Earth as well, and so there's a bunch of like unique, really powerful cards and engines that work together to just make the wheels spin with this deck. So let me showcase what this deck can do at a very baseline level, and then I'll explain a little bit more from there. Okay, one thing about this deck is that it is not a one-card combo deck. It requires specific cards, or more specifically, just like costs for a lot of its cards, whether that is cost within levels or whether that is cost within discards. So I'm going to showcase what the individual card here does. Now, to be fair, this individual card does not require any specific cards surrounding it in order to do this combo, but it does need generic cards. So it needs a cost for a ritual summon, and it needs a discard. Those are the two things you need. You need at least a level 4 monster to use as discard fodder, or not as discard fodder, as ritual fodder, and you need that additional discard as well for it to basically do what I'm going to show you. So we're going to start off here, and we're going to just activate it. Activating its effect, we are going to send to the graveyard one of the cards, and then we are going to add it to our hand. I like to add Bethor, but basically Bethor, Phaleg, or Eritron all kind of work. And then we are also going to add the Ophiel to our hand. The Ophiel is important. From here, we are going to activate the ritual monster to ritual summon out the Ophiel, and we can tribute anything here. I'm going to end up tributing the, what's this bucket? From here, we get to activate a whole bunch of effects. First and foremost, we also get to activate the Anastasis, which draws us cards, but then we also get to search a card. I like to search and then draw, just because it thins the deck ever so slightly more, and we could potentially draw even better. So here we're going to add the Haggith, and then we are also going to draw 2. The 2 cards we draw technically don't matter, but in reality they do. Each individual card is very important, because each individual card could be additional extension, additional disruption, what have you. Very nice. Moving on, we can then immediately go into the Haggith here from the Ophiel, and notably, the search effects of both Haggith and Ophiel are not once per turn. However, the ritual summons are, so keep that in mind, as is the ritual summon effect for all of them. Here we are going to grab up ourselves the quick play spell, because we are immediately going to fire it in order to summon out the full from deck by tributing out our Haggith. From here, we can activate the effect of Full in order to add back to our hand the Bethor to modulate its level to 8, and to give us the necessary fodder for the Full, which we are immediately going to use in order to go into a Full Lock. So we're going to tribute off this monster that we just added back to our hand to go with the Full Lock, which we will then add back the Bethor back to our hand once again, and then from here we can activate the Full Lock as well in order to tribute summon out the Phaleg. This is pretty nice because Phaleg here can then activate its effect in order to grab up a myriad of different things. Here we're going to grab up our big boy. From here, there's a bunch of different directions that we could go. Obviously, it kind of depends on where our hand is looking, but here we can obviously just reveal and be like, no, you don't get to activate cards or effects or what have you, right? But overall, this is kind of like what you can accomplish. Now, this doesn't seem like a ton, but for the most part, we still haven't used our normal. We can still go into Block Dragon. We can still go into just like a myriad of different things here. Hopefully, we've drawn into one of our other engines. Like here, we have Chalice Slime, and we have access to our Monju, which are both very useful. So there's that. We also have the Block Dragon that we sent to the graveyard earlier. You could draw into the Mitsu stuff. So there's a bunch of different things that you could pivot into from this position. But I do want to showcase what the Megalith stuff in particular does. So from here, I'm going to add to the hand another one of our differently named ritual spells, basically. And we're just going to use it in order to ritual summon out the boy. I'm going to go these two in order to summon out this big guy. And this is basically the full combo, right? If you put Plura and Full onto the board alongside the trap card, which you can search off of another Haggith, you then have the ability to negate, and if you've properly summoned the Full Lock, you can actually reborn that to grab, you can grab Bethor, you can grab Eritron, you can grab additional searches, and you have the Omni Negate of Plura. It's not a ton, but it's a resistant board, and it's a difficult board to actually play through, right? Due to the fact that you can basically nuke the opponent's field, right? So as long as you keep enough names in graveyard for your Bethor, you can kind of go from there. All right, now I really quickly want to showcase Gale Dogra. If you don't know this card is absolutely insane. Gale Dogra allows us to multiple times per turn send a card from extra deck to the grave. Now, normally you would be able to utilize this with multiple Herald of Arclight. However, it's limited to one. Mostly due to the fact that Yummy can also utilize this. However, we could also utilize it ourselves here, even at 1, because guess what? The world is now our oyster. We can do a whole bunch of different things. I'm going to specifically showcase what the Miracle Raven does here. Again, I'm not certain we are going to get the Miracle Raven, but at the very least, we can do that. Now, notably, Gale Dogra can activate again. It's not a once per turn. In fact, if you had the ability to gain additional life points, you could use it again. Or as many times as you want, really, which is kind of funny. So that's pretty cool. We ended up drawing the Plura, which is kind of funny. But from here, we're going to go for the Miracle Raven, and Miracle Raven can summon itself by distributing off this Gale Dogra. Fantastic, awesome, love to see it. That being said, this individually doesn't do anything by itself. It needs to be tributed off in order to facilitate additional ideas and strategies. So, hey, look at that. We have Mitsu. That being said, you can't actually use the Mitsu tribute effect to trigger this guy. He needs to be tributed for a ritual. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the Pensive Bloom here, revealing the Chalice Slime, and we're going to summon the Talismandra here. Which then the Talismandra allows us to grab up a monster here. Now, I want to also showcase this, so I'm going to grab the Bethor here. That's probably not the best option, but alas, we're going to do this, because now we can go for the Plura here, and just, boom. That's right, the whole tribute summon was utilizing this one guy, and not only that, we now get to search out anything else. Hey, look at all these things that we can do. I'm actually going to grab up the Benten here, because from this position, we can actually do a whole bunch of different things. We're going to go for the Chalice Slime here. I'm going to pitch this one, and we're going to special summon out this guy, and then we are going to activate the effect of our Candle, because I'm playing a whole bunch of ritual spells as well. I'm going to grab up the incantation. We all know what Mitsu stuff does. So we're going to go for the incantation, and we're going to summon out our Benten, tributing off this guy. Out comes this guy. We're going to then tribute off one of our other guys in order to grab up another one. We're going to go for the Pensive Bloom, sure. Add back the incantation, and then we can actually go for the incantation here, and we can summon this guy, tribute this, and summon out the Mitsu card, and then bada bing, bada boom. We're kind of off to the races from there. I'm lying to you, but alas, you kind of get the idea, right? The incantations pair well with the Mitsu stuff and what have you. But overall, yeah, again, Miracle Raven, pretty solid in that regard. Utilizing it for the tribute of the Plura in particular, very strong. And then on top of that, it can like tribute off other such cards. So there's that. Pretty interesting overall, and that's all that I wanted to show you. All right, so the last thing that I wanted to showcase really quick is how to basically get the 2 level 4s onto the field. So we're going to do the same thing with the Gale Dogra. We're going to send to the graveyard the Arclight. We are going to then grab to our hand. We're going to grab a Bethor this time, so because we want to use it. Anyway, you'll see. We're going to take some damage, go for the Garura, activate the effect of the Garura. Not a great draw, but it's fine. Here we're going to go for the Bethor. I'm going to go for this guy. We're going to tribute off our Manju. Out comes the Hagath. Hagath effect is going to activate. We're going to grab the continuous spell. Fantastic. Go for the continuous spell. Activate the effect of the continuous spell. Pitch this and grab up our 2 guys. We're going to grab up these 2. Awesome, awesome. From here, we're going to utilize our Gale Dogra that we still have on field and go kind of just through the same line. I forgot to activate the effect there. That's not that big of a deal. Oh, I forgot to activate both of the effects. Again, it's not really that big of a deal. Here we go for the full lock. Tribute off this guy. Activate this guy's effect. We're going to go this. We're going to go this. We're going to go this. We're going to grab back Eritron. Grab a card. We'll just grab this guy, sure. And then draw 2, and we're going to discard 1, and we drew into... We drew into the Block Dragon. I was going to showcase what this deck can do if you don't draw into that. But alas, because what we can do here is we can go for the quick play here. We can go for the Ophiel. I've kind of messed up this combo a little bit, but it's again, it's more dependent on like what your hand does as opposed to any specific combo. So there's that. Alas, we're gonna go and reveal this guy, which is great, and then we can go into this. And then from here we can go Gallant Granite. No, what? Okay, there we go. We can go into the Gallant Granite, and here you would normally search out the Block Dragon, but alas, I'm going to search out, I don't know, this one. And then we can go for the Block Dragon here, and we can banish some of our guys. Notably, Gale Dogra also happens to be one of the attributes necessary for the Block Dragon. And then from here, you can use these two to go into Cross Sheep, and then create a Block Dragon, which can search out a bunch of different cards. Notably, you normally are able to search out this guy if you don't already have full in rotation. So generally, if you go for 2 4s pretty quickly, you can do that, which is nice. But alas, I can't do that here, so we're going to just search out these two. You could also search Gigantes or a bunch of other like 2s and stuff like that. But notably, this allows you to go into like Synchro monsters and just a myriad of different things. So yeah, Gallant Granite's very useful. On top of that, you can search Nibiru if you wanted to. So there you go. Lots of really cool things that this deck does. I'm very excited for all of the various different ideas and strategies that this this deck facilitates. We'll go for this guy. We'll tribute off this guy. Yeah, lots of different triggers. There you go. And that's pretty much it for the deck. Obviously, you know, pair this with any other ritual slop stuff, you know. Obviously, the Mitsurugi stuff is going to pair well with it. The Drytron stuff pairs well with it, etc., etc. That being said, I will say that the Megalith stuff in general is very powerful independently of all of these other things, right? The quick play not being a once per turn is one of the greatest ways to actually ritual summon a card. You also have one of the most powerful ritual monsters in the game in Plura. It's just an insane powerhouse of a card. We also have like Full Lock, which is also an insanely powerful card as well, and things like Emergence and Portal are also very nice as an additional way of like extending or, you know, getting additional cards into rotation. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do and you like can facilitate. And I think that's really, really cool. I'm very excited for this deck. That being said, I don't think it's going to be exceptional in any capacity. I don't think it's like going to be the way to play Mitsu or anything of that nature. But at the very least, it's a cool concept. It's a cool thing you get to do in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's why we like Yu-Gi-Oh! Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy it. If you did, I like us very much. So appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.